My fellow Americans, there may come a time when the country that you were born in becomes unrecognizable. For me, that time is now. My grandmother sent off my grandfather to fight against a great evil, an evil that we hoped not to see again, an evil on another shore far away. My grandfather was brought back home badly injured, the sole survivor of a platoon that was otherwise completely lost. A great sacrifice was made by those young men, a great sacrifice from a great generation. The mothers of those boys gave from their womb their sons to fight against a great evil that had once lurked in the shadows, but now had been brought into the light and had been given great power. An evil that had a thirst for power, fueled by hatred. This evil empowered others to act on their hatred, provided them a stage, a place, and permission to act on that hatred. As a result, many were lost. My grandmother taught me to stand up when I see something that is wrong. I'm making that stand right now. For many years, since 9/11, we have lived in fear of the voice of evil, a message of hatred, a message that has torn apart its own communities based purely on religion and heritage, a movement that recruits young people, discouraged people, disenfranchised people, inviting them to join the movement with the promise of power and to be surrounded with the purity of their own kind. A voice that does not tolerate dissent and encourages its members to weed out those who are different, to call them out and intimidate or physically remove them. A thirst for power fueled by hatred. This, as we have seen in history, is a terrible, dangerous, and devastating combination. Now, this thirst has a new voice and is a candidate for the President of the United States of America. Land of the free, home of the brave, and home of my children. My country, where my children are to grow up. A country where I want my children to live with color and music and laughter and a variety of ideas, enriched by the cultures from around the world that have gathered here. My father came from Peru not only because of the opportunity for prosperity, but because of the promise of acceptance. The father of my children came here with his parents from India, who brought their ideas for our collective knowledge. Now, I must stand up for my country. A dictator recruits with the promise of power and motivates with hatred. A dictator uses fear to discourage anyone from speaking out. A dictator removes dissent, removes voices forcefully. A dictator calls upon his supporters to weed out dissension and rewards them for doing so. Not the leader of the free world. This candidate has a message with a voice that the world has heard before. I call on this person to look inside yourself, to look in the mirror and see the message reflected. And I call on this candidate to step down.